Thank you for the introduction. Welcome. Thanks for the invitation also. I'm trying to use the next 20 minutes to give you an insight on what we are doing to change dentistry using artificial intelligence. And yeah, there were some good segues already, like computers talking to computers is actually a problem. So AI slop, how much is that an issue for you? Changing dentistry is something that Straumann Group is very much invested into. So we are one of the entities globally who have founded the dental implantology field. That's our claim to fame, more or less. We are 12,000 people in the meantime, 2.6 billion revenue. We are there to create smiles. I think this is the most rewarding thing. How do we impact people's lives is something that actually gives us a lot of purpose. We do that with a product portfolio around some of the most complex, some of the most meaningful treatments in dentistry or impactful treatments in dentistry we find. And when we talk to our customers, actually one thing that stands out, it's not about the products anymore. So we have the implants, we have the prosthetics around it, we have clear aligners to move and align teeth, for example. We have the digital equipment that supports all those treatments and a very large portfolio. But customers are more and more talking about, yeah, that's half of it. The other half is the experience I have when I use those products to treat actual patients, and what does the long-term outcome look like in that context. So it became more and more important for us to create that digital experience, and one of our strategic directions is to transform the dental practitioner's digital experience. This is a very strong mission that, from our perspective, requires both the product side, so what we do on the digital equipment, but also to change internally how we provide, because logistics suddenly becomes a topic. Do you really have the implant that you need for the treatment on hand? And if we have a backlog in manufacturing those, that's an actual problem for a patient in the end. So it becomes relevant to look into your supply chain processes to have the predictions right when the demand will be there, so you can produce for what patients are actually using. And then AI obviously plays the more and more important role in that topic or in that context. And so the typical example that you use in the meantime that a lot of people come in contact with, you have the assistance in driving. It's all fun and games to realize in a lab. But then when you apply AI, so how do you actually make that work in the real-time environment or in the real-world environment? That's a Tesla crash. Yes, it isn't proven that this thing has used full self-driving, but nevertheless, there's a discussion around it. And I think coming from the lab to the real world has a very meaningful element that Tesla, I think, very nicely proved, because the question has been asked, has been answered this evening, is not about will the AI replace me in my job? Our perspective has always been people using AI, so dental practitioners in our case using AI, will replace those who don't, much like drivers who use AI assistants are much safer and will eventually replace the other ones. But there is also a thing, so all the statistics, I mean, I took those numbers from another talk. Last year, they were at 7.5 million miles before a crash. Now the value came down to 5 million. I don't know what happened there. Did they change the basis? So when you measure, when you are transparent in that context, it's really interesting to look into the data. And data, in the end, is the foundation for everything we do. Now, if you search, just Google Trends. So look at what is trending in that context. Artificial intelligence. We had an era of deep learning being that topic. And now generative AI, very naturally. I mean, let's face it, this is why we are together here on that subject, maybe. So ChatGPT released in 23 created a lot of the hype and the craze at the moment. But the actual, for us, very exciting part where AI today makes a difference in people's lives, theoretically started in the 60s, the Perceptron paper being sort of the foundation for deep learning. Then something happened there, which was GPUs. So Google had this inaugural paper where 100 times speed up on the training side, and it became practical to actually use complex neural network. Then for the first time in 2011, machines outperformed humans in the task to classify images on is there a cat in the image or not. The year after, the Mikai Cancer Challenge already was won with the deep learning AI. And then Straumann started to invest in 2020 into a startup that's probably also a bridge. So we invested into Promaton with the path to ownership. The team is now our AI team. That's 50 to 60 AI researchers. We do generate patterns. We have some very interesting models also in place that we use to support the treatment decisions that we drive. So we invested into that thing on discriminative AI, and we are now at the brink of going into generative. So you can imagine crowns, for example, the generation of a crown as a prosthetic that you put in a patient's mouth that is turning from just understanding what is in the images acquired or in the data acquired to actually generating something that we turn into real-world objects. Okay, so something went wrong with the fonts, unfortunately. Our thinking, first of all, like I introduced, when we transform the practitioner's experience, is split between non-clinical AI applications, which I want to talk first about, because this is important also in this corporate application, and the clinical applications. We will talk about the latter in the second part. The non-clinical applications, we did what every corporation did. So you go into you collect the use cases, where could we apply it? You value the complexity of implementation versus the return you can get out of that. You have your 18, 20 or so initiatives, you rank them, and you start to embark in POCs to implement them. But we actually took a slight detour on that end. So we said, in the end, let's not invest into large-scale internal digital transformation application experiments, I would almost call them. But we said, what are the no-brainer moves anyways? And then you come to automation of office AI tasks, and then very easily customer support and AI sales enablement. So we actually apply large language models in that context to help our sales reps, for example, to have meaningful conversations with our customers, because their conversations become more demanding going forward. They need to become solution sellers, essentially. They need to understand in the challenge that our customer has, what do we have in the portfolio to solve the problem they have? And this is where we have first chatbots that work with our sales force, actually. I show you another interesting example that I can't show you the examples because this is probably the most sensitive data we have, to make a point about how you implement that in a real-world setting. So for office purposes, we introduced ChatGPT Enterprise into the organization. We integrated into the entire infrastructure. Remember, we are a 12,000 people organization. We need safety and security of what we are dealing with. And then the executive management team actually were the first ones to get a custom GPT as a front end to all our sales data. So what is 50, 60 people throughout the group who create reports every month right now, that got essentially boosted with a conversational AI that I can go in and say, okay, how was the sales figures of an apically tapered implant line in the northwestern US? And the system will answer that. But AI doesn't do magic. What we learned, or where we were lucky in a way, we introduced a data strategy project in the first place. So we had our system backbone connected already to a data infrastructure. We have governance in place to produce high quality data products, as we call them. So the sales data is curated, it is accurate, and then the large language model, ChatGPT in that case, comes in as an interface to interact with something that is high quality data underneath. If we didn't have the infrastructure yet, we would very, very likely see very bogus results out of the queries we run against the data, because after all, this is not magic. This is a probabilistic model that is working on top of that, right? So interesting for us also, we measured the actual real-world impact in our operations that ChatGPT can have. I think what is interesting in applying it, we leave the businesses, so the different units, the different teams, with the decision on whether they should apply it or not. We have created a process that essentially links the cost to the outcome that they can have. And a self-reported efficiency gain we see is something like 10% that people see. So job descriptions for new hires and so on aren't written anymore by humans, essentially. Most people generate them using ChatGPT, and we see those custom GPTs like for the sales data emerging also in HR and other functions. And in the meantime, we get power users that surpass the 1,000 prompts a month ratio, roughly, while keeping the investment and the cost we have in that context relatively low. Obviously, or unfortunately, you also see the bullshit stuff happening. So occasionally you find people where you have a chain of emails, they play email ping pong, and you see this is ChatGPT writing to an answer from ChatGPT writing to an answer and so on. So that is AI slop. You need to go into that when you want to adopt that and say, hey guys, culture everyone. So that's probably a real world observation that is quite relevant. What I find interesting, you see more and more research coming out right now. So 23, ChatGPT got introduced. Everybody super excited. We see all the hype, all the proof of concepts come in. You change the chatbots for your customer service interaction. But how much P&L impact is that actually having? And so I just took the MIT report as the latest paper in that context. Gartner, McKinsey, they all have studies at the moment that show 95% of the POCs on this non-clinical side actually don't bring a P&L in effect or get stopped in the meantime because the adoption or the whatever everybody hoped for is an issue. And I can tell you with that sales bot, for example. So I mean, this is an RAG application in the end. We, after all, need to be very precise in the answer. We cannot accept the hallucination happening and then the chatbot inventing an implant line that we unfortunately didn't develop yet. So that's something that you really might want to stay clear of. So looking on the clinical side, we actually did more, as you saw. We invested also more early. You need to learn a little bit of dentistry. So you saw our product portfolio, dental implants, the restorations you affix to it. I hope for everybody that you don't get in contact with it. If you do, Straumann products have a real advantage. But dentistry that we know, we all have that experience, is digitizing in the meantime. So, I mean, as I at least got brackets and wires as a kid, so orthodontic treatment, and I very vividly remember the physical impression. So it's the little metal spoon that the colorful paste gets in. That they take an impression from your dentition. In the end, that gets into a plaster model, and then the lab does something with it. That has been largely replaced with a digital acquisition device. You see there an intraoral scanner. So that's a device that can optically scan your dentition and capture the geometry to a precision level of 10 to 20 micron, roughly, which is enough precision to later on plan digitally either the placement of an implant that fits the rest of your dental situation and or go on and design and produce the restorative element that the dentist will put in the portfolio. In the meantime, guided surgery is becoming more important. So most implants, 80% plus of implants are still free-handed. The dentist looks at a panoramic scan oftentimes. They place the implant. Well, you better hope that they don't hit the nerve that is running here through your jaw because that will make half of your brain numb, essentially. But you see digital navigation systems coming in the meantime, so computer vision systems that track the location of the instrument relative to the dental situation. And then this acts like a GPS for practitioners to place implants more precisely, more safely, which is especially useful in very complex cases. And we created a digital platform that is deployed globally. that powers essentially the flow of data throughout that entire workflow, such that you come from either an X-ray, CBCT, or the intraoral scan and then use it throughout the rest of the treatment workflow. This is what we are trying to work in. Obviously, there is a lot of cognitive burden. So I talked about the nerve, for example, and Straumann has, through acquisition, acquired one of the leading products for implant surgical planning. The task, again, is you need to find the optimal placement in the jawbone without hurting the critical structures in there. So one of the very basic tasks is in the X-ray, you need to track this purple nerve. So the implant you place will not touch and disrupt that nerve. And while the data you acquire is just pixels beforehand, segmentation, remember image understanding essentially, is the initial task that you need to master. And we integrated that into our product portfolio and treat more than 500,000 patients, or our customers treat more than 500,000 patients per year with that system. They gain more than 60% of the time back they used in the past to just prepare the cases and go into the surgery. We see some very interesting trends in there. So I checked for the last 7 days, for example. We processed more than 55,000 data sets, cases, essentially, with our AI system, so projected to a year, and this is steeply growing at the moment. We are far beyond 95% acceptance rate on the segmentation without human intervention, so the dentists still check what the system shows them. But most of the segmentation tasks, what I would call data preparation for the treatment planning, has been automated. And in the last 2 years also, we saw the skepticism in the beginning. So 2/3 of the customers did not trust the AI. In the meantime, that turned around and 2/3 just trusted more or less. Think also this changes the workflow. So it's not you go in and treatment plan yourself. It's more you go in, somebody does a proposal for you, and you check whether the proposal is sane and sound in the meantime, which is kind of an interesting development. And thinking about bringing that further, I just want to make the point. So the Access platform gives you access to all your data. We see here a prototype. This might or might not be close to a product, where you see the data getting loaded, then the diverse algorithms we have implemented or trained apply to that model. You get essentially a separation of the dental objects or the situation in the patient that you can start to interact with. We follow some principles in that context, like we don't force affirmative confirmation, for example, but we invite editing. So if we can see there is a deviation and a human should intervene, then we would guide them into checking on the results, maybe confirm the correction. In that case, we go out of it. And then we even go into generative cases, like so you select an implant that you want to place in this tooth position where the tooth is missing. We believe in anatomical, so prosthetics-driven placement. So you generate a crown, a wax-up, what a lab would have done in the past, and then the implant system is presented. We decide also on the view to present. We have very intuitive tools in the meantime to correct a little bit what the proposal was, to make it very easy to check on the proposal that came in, because again you need to take the cognitive burden out of what the dentists are doing, and there you have a plan generated for the treatment essentially. This is what is about to happen in the future and to come in. So for us, with the results, we see in actual production, since we have a Class 2 device out where we could introduce an assistance system, we gained enough precision in the meantime that we deem the whole data fusion topic, so we can segment CBCT scans, optical surface scans like the intraoral scans. We deem that problem solved and create something like a digital twin of the patient. And then from there, we can go on and try to be not the best AI in the lab, but bring the AI into the practitioner's hands and measure, for example, how long it takes to come to a plan, the acceptance rate of the plans that the AI brings out. We obviously always keep the human in the loop. We invite the editing instead of forcing you need to confirm on that thing. And we put guardrails, not hard stops, because typically there is multiple solutions for a clinical problem, and there are styles also for treatment. So where guidelines exist, we show the violation of the guideline, for example, and we give people a notice, well, watch out, here's something that you should check, because this is not plausible in our opinion. And with that, we generate plans, treatment plans, that the practitioners then can take into the actual operation, taking out a lot of time. We see examples from our customers where they free up 50% of chair time. So essentially, you as a patient also need to spend 50% less time in order to get to the end of the treatment. And from an economic point of view, obviously, this is very, very impactful, because for our customers, the dentists, chair time is money. So if they can treat more people, then they will consume more of our products. This is how we essentially capture the value that we get. And to give you some takeaways, AI is here today. If you project that, in the meantime, we are on a trajectory to have millions of patients somehow impacted by the AI we deployed every year. Capturing the value is not so easy. I think you need to have a sound and solid portfolio in place where you can integrate it to scale it very quickly. The right foundation is a necessity, and I would say that's true both for the internal applications as well as the clinical applications. We invested heavily into having the access platform in place and connecting the equipment out there. Having that infrastructure actually helps to apply the AI to the use cases that we see. And developments are incremental. So for us, it's a journey of first solve the initial cognitive tasks, then go into automation of certain workflows, like replacement of a single molar, and eventually build a complete co-pilot that can support whatever treatment you come across, also the more complex treatments, but get out there to not stay in the lab, but validate in real-world application in order to make sure that you build something that is valuable and meaningful for your users. This is how we drive the AI application into the dental field.